Well, yeah, hello and welcome everyone. We have a set purpose this weekend to introduce a very definite topic, but I'm also really sharing with you guys my life's work on some level. So I'm very, very open to just questions. You know, the opportunity here is that I'm here for a whole weekend and we have 2 quite long days together. Hopefully that's a good thing and that you'll agree with that. So please feel free to ask questions about any dimension of the work, because I'm going to be discussing what I believe is a very simple astrological method. It's not highly technical. It's not something that requires loads of calculations or years of experience to start using. So there's a very dynamic method going to be presented over this weekend. But I'm also going to look philosophically, spiritually, psychologically at the role of an astrologer, why we would be looking into something like someone's evolution or their, in quotes, destiny, which is frankly a loaded term. In fact, you've got 2 of the genuine black sheeps of the conference family and me and Tony here who are going to ESAR next week in California, speaking at a predictive astrology conference, when, you know, I have moments where I dispute the idea of predictive astrology altogether. And I nicely frame my title, you know, can we predict the difference between crisis and transformation in our clients' lives? And I'm going to start fairly on in the talk and say, well, no, not really. So that's that dealt with in a way. So when I talk about this destiny line, I'm clearly aware this is quite a loaded term. We can already pile all sorts of significance onto astrology. And it's not like it's not significant. I'm not disputing the significance of astrology. I'm just wanting us to contextualize that significance in a certain way so that it promotes the higher good, the power and the choice of ourselves and all the people we work with. And I'm going to try, as I present this material, to look at certain conceptual blocks within it, even within the kind of astrology that I find interesting. I personally think it can be applied in quite a heavy-handed way. Really, the origin of this destiny line work is in the work of Dane Rudhyar, the classical musician and theosophist, early, mid-20th century. I've always been into Rudhyar, but my reconnection with Rudhyar came when I was in the archive of Roberto Assagioli in Florence, Italy. And I discovered that Assagioli, one of the spiritual, psychological pioneers of the 20th century, was an astrologer of half a lifetime's experience, had hundreds of hand-drawn charts, must have spent thousands and thousands of hours studying astrology. And this began really, some of that began when Rudhyar visited Assagioli in the 1930s, just before Mussolini's government shut down the psychosynthesis school as a pacifist organization and therefore dangerous. Pacifists are so dangerous, aren't they? They're always banding together, taking their vegetables and threatening you. Anyway, sorry, don't know where that came from. Kind of a vision of a pacifist army across the world, yeah. Veganism, liberal politics, the arts, oh, we'll fight. No, so Rudhyar is this key figure because at this point when he meets Assagioli, Rudhyar has been intensively studying Jung. Intensively, and this shapes the early part of the book Astrology of Personality in 1936. It's really informed by his studies of Jung. But when he's in Europe, he visits Assagioli because of their theosophical connections and forms this friendship, and they study astrology together, particularly charts of like artists and teachers. Now, what you see is this crossover in the 1930s between the leading depth psychologists. Jung and Assagioli are the 2 students of Freud who have a vision of psychology beyond just your drives, beyond just your, you know, materialist view that Freud had. And they are both practicing astrologers, directly and personally influencing Dane Rudhyar. And Dane Rudhyar's work takes on this transitional aspect between depth psychology, modern astrology, and Rudhyar's knowledge of Indian and Eastern philosophy and methods. And that's what we're really looking into today in a way, a fusion of those things. But what interests me is that it's the most dynamic fusion of the best of depth psychology, as it starts to flower a spiritual message post-Freud, and a working form of astrology that might actually practically and dynamically change people's lives. So the aim today is that we examine certain conceptual frameworks of astrology and feel good about how and why we practice, and that if you didn't feel this way before, you leave this weekend with at least the choice of using a working method.